Welcome to Intelligence Explained. Is America losing their advantage in AI chip technology? Craziest thing happened. We got some leaked reports from some journalists over in China that the Chinese government in Shenzhen had been able to set up an EUV lithography machine that had previously only been able to be exported, manufactured, and maintained by a company called ASML. ASML is the sole manufacturer of these EUV machines. The Chinese government and different private companies in China, it appears, were able to hire some ex-ASML employees and go through the process to recruit away some expats and Chinese nationals that were working at ASML and go set up an EUV machine in Shenzhen. Now, this doesn't mean that they can start manufacturing at the peak cutting edge technology right away. They've got a long way to ramp up production, but it does mean that they're on the warpath to break through some of the technological blockades that have been put on China by the West. This is huge news in the AI ecosystem. If they're able to ramp up faster than a lot of people are anticipating, they're going to be able to catch up in the size and capacity of the chip technology pretty quickly. That's a notoriously difficult technology, incorporating a light source that's firing a high-powered laser with tiny drops of molten tin in a vacuum environment. Now, this laser hits the tin, vaporizing it into plasma. Then it burns hotter than the surface of the sun. Then there's a reflection technology component in it. The light that is happening during this laser tin explosion reaction, vaporizing it into plasma, the light is so delicate that the air would absorb it. So it's in a completely clean environment, and it all happens in a vacuum to be able to extract this light. It's bounced off a series of incredibly precise mirrors, and this is all basically the size of an atom. That a lot of this stuff is taking place. So it's very difficult. And then this light is used to eventually hit the silicon in a silicon microchip, and it burns the pattern into it layer after layer, stack after stack, one by one, to create some of the most microscopic and advanced chips technology on the planet. These EUV machines have been under a blockade of the West starting a few years back, where they're not able to sell from ASML into the Chinese market. So what China did is it actually started importing, prior to this ban coming into effect, they started importing a lot of EUV technology, the actual machinery and components. And now they're starting to pay engineers to come from where they would have worked or used to work for ASML and be deployed inside of China, working to set up a manufacturing system they're trying to get up and running right now. Now, Huawei had done some of this other similar stuff, importing EUV technology, and then they set up shell companies to try and circumvent some of the blockades, some of the geopolitical restrictions that were placed on advanced technology inside of the AI arena. And artificial intelligence relies solely on these microchips right now, and the amount of capacity and memory that they can have, that they're trying to find ways around it. Huawei had actually set up some shell companies and some ghost companies to still try and be manufacturing with Taiwan Semiconductor, which is the main manufacturer, very microscopic nanometer microchips that are used in AI. Now, that doesn't mean that China is right on the heels, but man, they are a lot closer pursuing this technology and doing a pretty decent job of getting enough engineering talent in the doors to be in China to help them set up. This is a big, big deal. Leaked rumors and a news source from a journalist. We don't know a lot of other details, but is the US losing its AI dominance in chips and manufacturing and applications? Well, in one respect, I would say that TikTok, ByteDance has had some of the cutting edge AI even implemented sooner than some of the US technology companies. And this has made China a formidable competitor in trying to reach scaled artificial intelligence applications inside of China, outside of China, and different use cases around the world. But what this does mean is that within the chip manufacturing set, with NVIDIA being the dominant force and Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing a majority of these things, it does pose some questions of whether the gap is going to get closed quite a bit quicker. And it also plays into an interesting geopolitical context. China and Xi Jinping, the leader of China, has been broadcasting to many, many people for many years their intent, their desire, and their eventual action to take back and what they call reunify Taiwan with China, because they are claiming it as their territory. Now, the most advanced manufacturing of microchips in the world happens in Taiwan. And what would that mean for the manufacturing set if they had enough technology, if they had enough engineers? Would they be as worried about destroying some of the technology that's in Taiwan and just being able to salvage whatever they can if they do invade? Well, there's journalists inside of China hearing from high-level administration officials that they're planning not only a blockade of Taiwan, but a strategic action, is the terminology being used, sometime in the next 2 to 3 years, which is 26, 2027, or 2028, to be able to reunify Taiwan with China. Now, why this is relevant is because Taiwan Semiconductor is a company that's based in Taiwan and is the predominant manufacturer of the cutting edge AI technology. Now, there's two implications here. If China were to attack or blockade and somehow try to attempt getting control of Taiwan Semiconductor via taking back and reunifying Taiwan, this would be devastating for the US supply chain for artificial intelligence. It would also be difficult for China to then be able to integrate some of that technology into their own manufacturing and production, because I would imagine that a lot of the engineers would flee, and some of them would be probably aided by the United States coming to the US and trying to work in some of the manufacturing facilities that they've set up here in Arizona or with Intel. I think there would be a lot of reshuffling around. And so a lot of the existing engineers and the knowledge base that are in and around Taiwan Semiconductor would come this way. But there would be enough that I bet you they would be able to facilitate and get some ex-nationals or ex-employees to be able to participate and bolster their knowledge set to be able to manufacture some of the AI chips that are needed for building some of the highest end frontier models out there. Now, so this would have an impact on the US, this would have an impact on China, but what this says to me, by China really pushing into the EUV technology and lithography, by getting ex-ASML engineers and hiring people away with $700,000 to $1 million compensation packages with housing stipends and unlimited research budgets to help them get set up in manufacturing on the cutting edge. This process is the preemptive process to be able to comfortably make a strategic action for China on Taiwan and know that they have some manufacturing capacity that they would be able to continue to ramp up. And that is one of the key steps that makes it more likely, it seems, that China is going to take a strategic action in and around Taiwan at some point in the next few years. This is not a politics show, but led by the fact that there's a trend that Xi Jinping referenced of territorial reunification. I think he's referencing in his speech from New Year's Day that he's referencing Russia attacking Ukraine and becoming ambitious territorially. And then just in the last couple of days, we've seen the unfolding of the Venezuela coup that was conducted by the United States, potentially illegally. We'll find out. I don't know. But that application of force seems to be a trend, and Xi Jinping has already referenced it. I imagine they're building towards, by getting these technologists and engineers in place, to close the gap on the AI technological lead that the United States has and all of their manufacturing resources and partners, including Taiwan, that is laying the groundwork for them to make major moves, not only in artificial intelligence, but also in territorial ambition. They're sort of connected or loosely adjacent at this point. Fascinating stuff, really interesting to watch, kind of crazy to hear that, because I know that blockade of the ASML technology has been one of the key pillars of trying to keep our competitors out of being able to manufacture directly, to be able to create different types of AI models, software implementations, hacks, and technology in general. Is the US losing the artificial intelligence lead that it had? It hasn't lost it. The gap is narrowing, and that is an interesting thing to watch. So thanks for joining me on Intelligence Explained, understanding AI through investing, technology, history, and news. See you next time.